Welcome back to the Nicholas Rogers Outdoors channel, where you can trust what I'm saying based on how I look with the collared shirt, cowboy hat covered with dust, and the fact that I carry my sidearm, my trusty 6-shooter. Because let's face it, if you can't take out 10 bad guys with 6 rounds, you shouldn't be carrying a gun anyways. Plus, I just want you to know, I'm not a shill for companies. I will always be honest with you and tell you what I truly think. Just kidding, this is Nicholas Rogers with the big timber launch! Come back at you today with another fun and exciting video where you know I'm not going to give you no BS. I'm going to be straight up honest with you based off of facts and data and not emotions, feelings, or somebody paying me to say something so you'll buy their crappy product. And in today's video, we're going to have a look at the goods, bads, pros, cons of adjustable triggers. So let's jump right into this. So what exactly is an adjustable trigger? Well, an adjustable trigger, as the name implies, means that the trigger can be adjusted. Now, with some triggers, you can adjust it in 3 different ways. One would be for the creep, which is the amount of travel the trigger will have before it hits the wall and breaks. Another way you can adjust it is with the over travel, which is how far the trigger moves backwards after it breaks. And the way that this trigger can be adjusted, which all adjustable triggers can be adjusted for, is the trigger pull weight, meaning how much pressure is needed to be applied to the trigger shoe before it will actually break and get the sear to engage with the hammer and make the gun go boom. Now, with this Trigger Tech primary trigger, it says right here that you can adjust the trigger pull weight between 1.5 and 4 pounds. Now, each adjustable trigger will be different, and some will have a lighter range of trigger pull weight, and some will have a heavier range of trigger pull weight. Why do you think that there's going to be different ranges of trigger pull weight? Why don't manufacturers just offer one range? Well, the answer is because there's different applications of use for a firearm, and depending on what that application is, will dictate what trigger pull weight you should be operating in. If you're, let's say, using this as a service firearm or a firearm you will use in the line of duty, you're typically going to see that trigger pull weight requirement be somewhere between 4.5 and 8 pounds, which is extremely heavy if you think about a competitive shooter that's shooting off of a bench rest or F-class where they're laying on their stomach, where they might be using a trigger pull weight that is sub 1 pound in the ounces. And there's different applications in between, whether it's 3-gun competition, hunting, or let's say self-defense, or just general plinking. There is a trigger pull weight range that is applicable to each one of those uses. Now, that is what leads to one of the cons of getting an adjustable trigger is you might do some research and look at different types of triggers that are available and automatically be drawn to the extreme of the lightest trigger possible, which, depending on the application in which you're going to use it, can lead to a dangerous environment. If you're dealing with the trigger that is sub 1 pound in the ounces, it barely takes a nudge to make that trigger engage. Additionally, if your safety is off and you were to drop your firearm, and let's say it fell several feet and landed on the buttstock, just the inertia of that firearm traveling downward and the buttstock being pushed back upward and the weight of the trigger can accidentally make the firearm discharge.
Marvin, what do you make of all this?
Man, I don't even have an opinion.
Well, you gotta have an opinion. I mean, do you think that God came down from heaven and stopped that? Oh! Stop me! Oh, man! Oh, man, I shot Marvin in the face.
Which is a dangerous situation, especially, let's say, if you're using this in a hunting application. That's why most hunters, they say the trigger pull weight should be around 2 to 2.5 pounds, depending on what you're going to be doing. If you're sitting in a tree stand and you're not going to be loading your firearm until you get into that stand, and you will be unloading your firearm as you exit the stand, or before you exit the stand, then you can go with a lighter trigger pull weight. But if you're going to be hiking around in the mountains of Colorado or Utah, and there's a chance that you might drop your firearm while it's loaded, and you accidentally knock the safety off, let's say you're walking through the brush, you don't want to take the risk of having an accidental discharge. But overall, having an adjustable trigger typically means it's going to be of higher quality than the technology that we saw in firearms 10, 20, 30 years ago. And you're going to have a much more enjoyable experience whether you're at the range, shooting competitively, using your firearm in the line of duty, or taking a shot on big game. So if you're thinking about getting an adjustable trigger, do me a favor and get yourself a trigger pull weight scale. This will allow you to know where your trigger is actually breaking. And if you find that your trigger is breaking below the low end of the trigger pull weight range, you might have loosened that screw just a little too much and you need to tighten it up. Now, if you find that the trigger is breaking way above the high end of the range, you might need to contact the trigger manufacturer. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I think it's something that people just need to be aware of. And until next time, peace.